I was going to get into gender segregation within Hinduism as a whole. Can you sort of describe the ideologies behind gender segregation and the histories of it up until today?
Well, I mean, gender segregation
Within worship.
in Gujarat and in worship is kind of interesting in practice and then in philosophy. One of the main criteria, and this also varies under hierarchical caste organizations. So the separation becomes more and more pronounced as you go up the caste order, and is much less so at the bottom. You must have noticed the phenomenon that there are no Hindu priestesses in who do principal worship in public temples. They are wives of the priests who may sometimes assist the priest, or the priest has gone off and they may do some rituals, but there are no priestesses who are leading or running a public temple, not generally. Now that is one particular interesting phenomenon. Equally interesting and reverse is the phenomenon in the home that very frequently you find in Hindu homes that is a woman in the family of the couple who spends more time doing the family worship. Not that it's required of her, but just because the man goes to work, his worship is often more perfunctory compared to the more elaborate worship that the wife seems to take. Now this might change in the coming generation when wives and daughters may also, as they increasingly are doing, at least in metropolitan areas, entering the workforce. And so maybe their ability to do puja or seva becomes less. Now, puja itself is a very important way of worship. It's not the only way of worship, but it is the dominant way of worship. And that is something that's important to appreciate, because Hindu worship is essentially based on two ideas: adoration, which is what puja is, and service, which seva is. Of course, both things are done to the divine, but the adoration principle is based on the glorification of the deity, which is done through essentially looking at the divine or deity both as a impervious force, large force, untouchable force, and simultaneously using that same image or murti as if it were a very close proximity with you, as if it was your own child or your own beloved, so that the worshipper becomes the mother figure in that ritual. Just as the mother would feed, clothe, bathe, and look after every need of the child, so too does the devotee, whether it is in the Swaminarayan worship or in other Hindu worship. They will meticulously deal with this particular image in that kind of way. And as they are doing that, they may sometimes say some prayers, or they may say sweet nothings, like a mother may say sweet nothings to her child, where they may simply say, "Oh, you're looking lovely today, Did you have a good night's rest? Or in other words, often it is a conversation of great intimacy and familiarity between the devotee and this brass or stone or wood or object. The object is not something that is a doll, though it has the shape of a doll, a miniature doll, or the object is in fact the personification of a particular emotion as vested in there's a certain passivity at the time when the devotee is dressing the doll, feeding the doll. The doll or the murti is the recipient of affection, adoration. But more affection at that time. And the affection is done by service. Service in the larger sense of where you are providing everything that the particular deity needs in human terms. The adoration that you have such power, effulgent power, is manifest in after the murti has been dressed and treated, when simply you gaze upon the Lord, and you gaze upon the Lord by certain artis, the rituals of fire mainly, which essentially identifies the effulgence, the power of the deity then comes shining from the murti to you. So that if you think of it in terms of X-rays or gamma rays or rays of benediction, these radiate out from the person of the divine, whether it's a painting or a murti, upon the worshipper. And that's why murtis, you never look at a murti in profile. Your murti is always standing to you directly opposite. Eyes are directly opposite. Shoulders are directly opposite. And the worshipper also sits directly opposite, as if it is a mirror image. So this power that comes from the eyes of the deity, supposedly eyes, but otherwise from its being, envelops you in this benediction, in the magnificence of a divine grace, or his divine grace. And it is that which empowers. That is what, when you say you have darshan, when you see it, that is the darshanic moment, that is the darshanic reception, what you have received from the divine is in that. Now that is one form of worship, the most popular, and can be done with by anybody. You don't have to be educated. You can offer a flower or a leaf, or you can offer many things. You can be very learned. You can offer your prayers in Sanskrit, or you can just offer them in common speech, depending on the status of the believer. This is known as the bhakti idea, devotion. But that is only one way in which the divine is worshipped. There's a whole notion of worship that is done by dhyana, which is through meditation, to meditate upon the form and upon what this deity represents. Dhyan is internalizing by meditating on a certain set. There is a similar as dhyana, known as smaran, where you invoke the deity. You essentially invoke the deity to yourself. You must quietly contemplate the form where there is none there.
I think Mensi Arti. Right? Is it Mensi Arti? When you sit there and you envision
when you sit often in a meditative pose,
mm-hmm.
but your